Hey guys, Chad Colby and Brian Leone back at Leone's. Brian, you're back from the dealer show.
I am.
And everybody's talking 9R.
They are.
It's not new.
It's not.
We had a 9R last year, but you can get it some configurations. You got notes.
I have notes.
You talked to Levi.
I talked to Levi.
We're going to play that little clip in here too if you missed it.
Hey guys, we're here at the Polaris dealer show for the 2025 model release with Levi LaValle, and Levi has some seat time on this new 9R engine, and we want to hear his thoughts on it.
I do, man. I tell you what, 9R, I've been able to ride it in the mountains. I've been able to ride it on the flatland, and now having it on trail and crossover, I mean, it puts a smile on my face. This engine is so much fun. It reminds me of my old mod sleds in snowcross. Just instant power, instant corner-to-corner acceleration. And when you get on it at an XCR, you are going to absolutely smile beyond belief. And then when you're off trail, switchback assault, we all love pulling wheelies,
right?
Powder. That thing is right up and down. I mean, you are going to absolutely love it. And I promise you, if you don't like this 9R, you got issues.
So I had a long discussion today with a couple of the engineers of this 9R, and we're going to get into that in detail in the next day or two. But it's basically a stroker motor. You think back in the day when your brother or your dad or somebody took a small block Chevy engine and put a 400 crank in 350, and you had a 383 stroker. And that thing revved to the moon like that. This thing's going to do the same thing, and I can't wait to have my butt on it.
Brian, talk a little bit about the feedback you got from the 9R, and feel free to dive into your notes.
I will.
I think the interesting part about this is kind of what we've all really wanted for a long time.
It is, and I talked to an engineer, and unfortunately I don't recall his name, but he's
Is
one.
it in your notes?
It's not, but he's one of the few guys in Polaris that looks kind of like Chad and I. He's got some gray hair.
Yeah.
And he's been there for a while, and he was very frank about what the 9R was and what the 9R isn't. So let's talk about the differences between a 9R and an 850 and a 650, which was really interesting to me. So what he told me, Chad, was they painted the head blue, and he wanted to be quite sure that it was more than just a blue head.
Right.
So the 9R actually has more similarities to a 650 than it does to an 850. It has a 88 millimeter bore versus an 85 on an 850, but the stroke, which I believe, let me read my notes.
Yes, we're in the notes.
It's a 74 millimeter stroke.
Well, but I think that's the key, right?
Right.
Is you and I, we've been snowmobiling for a long time. Big bore sleds, never, you and I didn't get super...
Like a diesel, right?
Yeah.
A lot of power, but it takes a minute to get there.
Right.
So with having the short stroke, the 72 millimeter stroke, crank is actually the same as a 650. So it's a lightweight crank.
Right.
It's got a lightweight flywheel on it. It's low inertia. So it's super quick revving. If you think back to a stroker motor, when your dad, your uncles, kind of similar to what Levi and I talked about, would take a small block Chevy engine,
Right.
a 350 Chevy, and put a 400 crank in, it became a 383. It was the biggest sleeper out there because it would rev to the moon and would rev like that. That's the 9R. And it's got 7% more horsepower, but 12% more torque.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
This is what I've been waiting for a long time. I rode a Boost last year, and I love my Boost. It was fast. It was powerful. At 80 mile an hour, you'd hit the gas, and it would pick the skis up off the ground. The speedometer would just exponentially climb. 0 to 30 was the same as an 850.
Well, everybody that rides a sled, right? They want the trigger.
Right.
You want to feel it here. Right?
You do, but I don't know if it's everybody. I'm not going to put my mom on it. I'm not going to put my daughters on it because it is twitchy, and the power is
Well, I
right.
just keep smiling.
Yeah,
Sounds fun.
the power is right there. So you're on an assault 9R, and you see a log that you want to jump, or you want to pick the front end up off the ground to show off to your buddies. Guess what? All you got to do is grab the happy lever.
Well, and that's the thing is I've always loved the 650 because the 650 is that super quick. Now, does it have
Right.
big legs? No, never has. But guess what? From 20 to 60, it's quicker, if not quicker than anything.
I like it. That's what I'm hoping to be riding this winter.
What are you thinking, Brian? talk a little bit about configurations. You can get it in an XCR. Oh my gosh. Track links. What do you like in there?
Rider preference, everybody's favorite is the 136, and I tend to disagree a little bit. If I'm buying a 9R, it's either going to be in a 128 or probably a 146, one or the other.
Yeah.
But the longer, the straighter the trails, the more comfort that you want. Right. That's where the 136 comes in.
They snow check only. What's the story there, Brian?
No, they're not going to be snow check
so you'll
only.
Have some for next
we have
year.
an allocation.
Okay.
So it depends on how many we snow check.
Right.
Whether we have any for the fall.
Okay.
So if you want to be guaranteed to get one, you have to get it on snow check. You get a 2-year warranty. You get all that good stuff. You get to pick your colors. There's 3 different color options in the 9R XCR, 3 different color options in the Assault Switchback, which both of those sleds are going to be very, very fun sleds and a complete different feel with that 9R engine.
That's awesome. So hey, let's just keep rolling here since Brian's on a roll. So we got the 9R, and then at the dealer show, here we go. They brought over that technology that came from side by side in the Dynamix Suspension, and wow, everything you read. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to ride it. We've certainly been around it in the Razor.
Right. Let me turn my page over.
He went to the other side of the notes.
I did.
I'm telling you, that looks to be the most impressive thing I've seen in a long time.
Completely agree. And I'm going to get a little bit in depth on this, guys.
Yeah.
I talked with Austin and Brian. I wrote
You
their
got their
names down.
names?
Yes. And these were good young guys, and they really knew what they were talking about. They were in calibration and the product development from the ground up on this.
Right. But they've been working on this. I've heard about electric suspension in snowmobiles, Brian.
For a long time.
When I say a long time, I know for a fact that the manufacturer that this is with was working on this a long time ago. I mean, before I had kids, so we're talking north of 10 years.
Yes.
I know they've been working on this stuff. And the problem is it's one thing to make it electric adjust. That means, hey, I see some bumps, I want to stiffen up the suspension and push a button and do that. That is not what this is. And I think that's what you really learn.
Right.
Is what the technology does. Talk about that, because that's the neat part. It's thinking for you, essentially.
Extremely rapidly thinking for you.
Right.
So the biggest question that I've seen on social media is, well, it's just the same as the Skidoo and Arctic Cat just came out with it this year. It is absolutely not the same. And I'm going to relate back to the ag business that, if you guys know me, I drive a sprayer in the summertime some.
Wait, I think you sucked me into that too, bro.
I do. So Chad drives a sprayer for us also. But so I'm very familiar with some of the terms that they are using in these and the differences between the technologies, which is absolutely key.
Yeah, that's imperative.
So differences in technology between what Polaris does and what everyone else in the world is doing on snowmobiles. So Polaris does not have shock sensors. So it's not waiting for the shock to tell it what it's doing to adjust. It's got what Polaris is calling an IMU, or an inertia measurement unit. So there's a sensor in this snowmobile that, I'm going to get my notes back out. It's measuring 4 events. It's measuring acceleration, braking, cornering, and airborne. Or airborne is what Polaris considers anything less than 1G, because there's a lot of times you're not quite off the ground. The skis and the track are still in contact, but you get the floating feeling. So the snowmobile is going to know all that. Nobody else does. That's key. So with this inertia measurement unit, we don't have steering position sensors. It's a yin and yaw sensor. Right. Same thing that we have in the sprayers. And we got into the auto steer sprayer game at the ground up back in 2005. And they use steering position sensors and a couple other things that the competition is using in their snowmobiles. And when about 5 or 6 years ago, when the ag companies went away from that to a sensor like Polaris is using, changed the game. Sprayers went straight, no matter what. Didn't matter what the field was doing. So I understand the difference. Yeah. The biggest difference though is Polaris is controlling the front track shock. And Chad, if I talk to you and say, hey, my snowmobile's not handling the way I want it to, where's the first place that you're going to go?
100%, right there.
The front track shock.
That was
the most important.
Well, I think that's the thing that when you watch the launch videos and you learn more about the suspension, especially if you're considering buying it, you have to understand. I would say most snowmobilers on a scale of 1 to 10 the least thing they know about or how to set is their suspension.
Right.
And I'm talking about from torsion springs to dampening and rebound to high speed to low speed. It's cool that you've got the button, but if you don't know how to use it, the button doesn't do you any good.
Right.
Where I think this snowmobile is really the first one that you buy it and you take it on the snow, and when you come to that big G out, there is no big G out anymore.
Right.
Literally, that's gone.
Saves your back.
Saves your back. What I'm saying is in conventional snowmobiles, which are all of these here, if you don't set the sled right, you're going to have the G out experience. I don't care if you're on an XCR or not. Well, this sled is it's dynamic. It's going to do that for you. I think it's hard even for us, and we're veteran guys, to sit and explain how big of a deal this really is.
It is. It is.
I mean,
I'm going to have both of my parents, I hope, on one of these sleds next year.
Oh, why not?
My mom on a 650, my dad on an 850 VR one with this suspension, with the Dynamix suspension. They also have a switch. So it's three-position adjustable, and the switch is down here
Yeah.
on the dashboard, and it's a big switch. So you
Gloves,
reach down
no
and
problem.
you click it, and it's got comfort mode, which, you know, my parents retired. They're going to love that.
But even that, Brian, even the comfort mode, I was reading about that. There was a demo ride thing, and a Polaris guy was talking about even the comfort mode. If you come to the big G out,
Oh, it's going to stiffen her up.
listen, it cranks it right up. So
Yeah.
don't think that that's plushy.
Right.
It's going to be plushy when it needs to be.
Yeah.
Is that the better way to say
It
it?
is, but the comfort mode is going to take some ski pressure off, so the steering's going to be easier. It's understanding what you want.
That's so awesome.
And then there's a rally mode, that's the place Chad and I are going to ride most of the time.
Yeah.
And then there's the extreme mode.
Was that called Levi? Is that a Levi boat? Is that his
I
picture comes up on the screen?
Yes.
Sorry, Levi. Yeah, well, his sled's here, Brian, upside down. I appreciate that.
So when you want to race your buddies, when the trails are whooped out on Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, it's been a long weekend, and you want to ride it like your hair's on fire, you're going to put it up in that top mode, and it's going to stiffen it up for you. I also talked to them about suspension adjustments. What do we have to do?
I really like this. This is
Yeah, absolutely. They thought that the stock springs are good for a guy up to about 290 pounds.
still move the transfer blocks. You
Yep.
still got to set it in pretty close.
Yep. So we're not going to be changing springs as often. It's still going to be necessary for north of 300, which is a few of us snowmobilers.
Yeah. Put some clothes on.
Yeah, a lot of us are there.
Yeah.
So
And it compensates for gear.
It does.
I saw that too. I read about that. But you know, Brian, the best thing I can tell everybody is get to the dealer, come and talk to you. There's a lot to learn. Brian, we're not going to touch on it. There's some great opportunities for snowmobiles.
Yep.
Whether you're looking for even a held hover 24, there's some of those around here. Certainly it's snow check season. But Brian, overall, pretty big launch for Polaris when you
it was to come out with two game changers like the 9R. There's nobody else has an engine like that.
No.
Nobody has an engine like that.
So Brian, thanks so much for sharing this. I think the best thing is as we learn more, we're going to share it with you guys.
Absolutely.
And if you got questions, come and see you guys. It's snow check season.
It's snow check season.
Hey,
at Leone's.
listen, we're starting earlier this year. Think snow for next year.
Right.
We're starting that
Right.
now.
Right.
All right, Brian. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you coming in.
You bet.